Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Emi, and on today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to install and configure ArcDPS completely from scratch. This video is a remake of my 2021 video since there have been a ton of changes to both ArcDPS and Guild Wars 2 since then. In addition, I'll show you how my meters are set up for both PvE and WvW and how I configured them to toggle different windows when in different game modes. So to start off, you have to install ArcDPS from the creator website. The link is in the description. Scroll down to the bottom because reading documentation is too hard and click on the download link. This will take you to a page with two files. Download the d3d11.dll by right-clicking and saving the link and navigate to your Guild Wars 2 installation path. For me, it is under my C drive. From here, you could open up the game and it would already be installed. However, before we do that, I have one more suggestion. You can update the font of the meter so the text is easier to read. I recommend using Google Font to find one that you like and downloading it to somewhere easy to find. For my own meter, I'm using Lato Bold 700. Extract the file, move it into your Guild Wars 2 add-ons ArcDPS folder, and make sure to rename it to ArcDPS_font. Now once you log into your game, you should see a menu with many different options. If you don't see it, try pressing Alt-Shift-T, which will open the settings menu, or Alt-Shift-H, which will hide the entire UI until you press those same buttons again. Let's first focus on the setup for PvE. To do my setup, checkmark these 4 boxes. This will make 4 windows appear, likely in the top left corner of your screen. There will be 2 area damage windows, 1 area buff window, and 1 self-stats window. We'll configure all of these to show an outgoing damage meter, a target breakbar meter, a boon table for your squad, and an outgoing healing tracker. Move these 4 windows to whatever shape you want them. For the damage meter, right-click the title header on the Area Damage UI to get some more options. Under the Display tab, you can set which damage types are displayed. In my personal opinion, I like to use @5 to show the average damage dealt to a single target, and @2 to show the average damage done to all targets. Underneath that, you can format to however you want the title to be displayed. I find it helpful to see how much damage the target is taking from all members of the squad, so I have my text formatted as Area Damage Target Total @3. To remove the default title, go to the Style tab underneath the Display tab and uncheck Show Default Title. After that, right-click the title header on the second Area Damage UI and mouse over the Advanced Stats tab. As you can see, you can track a ton of different things, but for the PvE section, we're only going to talk about the breakbar. Check the breakbar button underneath the squad column. This window will now show the amount of breakbar damage each player does, so you can keep an eye out on who's skimping out on CC. Once again, you can change the title under Display and uncheck the default title under Style. For the Boon Table, keep in mind that this is not the add-on for the add-on. This is the built-in area buffs table that came with the D3D11 file. I like to have in, 1, and U checked since in will make sure your table shows the incoming buffs for each player, 1 will display the list of boons in the buff list 1, and U is helpful for seeing the numbers as percentage uptime. Next, right-click the title header and mouse over the Buff List 1 tab. For me personally, I find that Might, Fury, Regeneration, Quickness, and Alacrity are the main boons that I really care about. By default, you will have all 4 except for Regen, but you can add it by typing the code 718 into the blank line. For display, I like to have the color sorted by subgroup, so check the Sort by Subgroup as well as the bar color using subgroup in the Display tab. I also like to see all of the buffs even when I don't have them, so I keep the Don't Hide 0 buffs columns checked as well. Finally, let's talk about the self-stats, which is what I use to track my outgoing healing. Something I've been asked a lot is if there's a healing meter. The answer is yes. There is another add-on for this add-on, which I'll link in the description below. However, I personally do not use it because there's one big limitation that is outlined in the documentation. The server does not notify about healing by players to other players. In other words, the healing add-on is only accurate if other players in the squad also have the add-on installed. Instead, I like to keep it simple and use the self-stats window to track my own personal healing, and that's good enough for me. To do that, right-click the self-stats window and make sure healing, barrier, and cleave are all checked. This is what I personally like displayed on my screen during endgame instance PvE content since it gives me a very good grasp on my personal contribution relative to the rest of the team. There are a ton of other customizations that you can do, so play around with it and see what you like. Now let's talk about WvW. The priorities of WvW squads are very different from PvE squads. To get started, I recommend loading into a WvW map because ArcDPS allows you to configure different window displays depending on which game mode you're in. In other words, you can set certain windows to only show in PvE, and you can set other windows to only show in WvW. Once you've loaded in, go ahead and add a bunch of new area stat windows. We'll be creating 4 new windows for outgoing damage, cleanses, boon strips, and downstate contribution. Since we already use 1 extra window for Breakbar in PvE, make sure that the boxes are checked for 2 through 5 while in a WvW map. For the damage meter, the main reason why we have a different window is because we will be tracking the total damage dealt to all targets. The default setup of @1, @2, @3 is already pretty good, so you don't have to change anything. For the 3 remaining windows, right-click on the title bar, hover over the Advanced Stats tab, and create windows for downstate contribution, cleanses, and boon strip by checking each one respectively under the squad column. It's pretty simple. One final thing that I would recommend is to exclude damage to NPCs and gadgets in WvW. After all, you want to know how much damage you're doing to other players in other worlds, not the innocent wildlife. And there you go. That's how I have everything set up. Before I end the video, I do want to include a few disclaimers and answer a few frequently asked questions. First of all, will using this tool get me banned? ArenaNet is very well aware of the existence of this tool. In fact, the developers have worked personally with the creator of the tool, Delta Connected, on projects in the past as referenced by this statement by developer Chris Cleary. People that have been banned for terms of service violations were likely using ArcDPS in conjunction with other ban-worthy actions. That being said, always use third-party resources at your own risk and do enough research to feel secure in your actions. Don't DPS meters foster toxicity? The vast majority of players that I have met use ArcDPS as a tool for personal improvement, and when the situation calls for it, group improvement, such as during raid or fractal trainings or if someone is very clearly asking for advice. Elitism and toxicity go against the terms of service, so please help the community as a whole maintain an easygoing and collaborative environment. In my very anecdotal experience, I have met very few people that weaponize the information that they get from DPS meters, but if you encounter someone being toxic, file a report in-game, block them, and move on. How do you export logs so you can review them later? You'll want to have this box checked under the logging tab. This will save each raid, strike mission, or fractal log under your default Guildwars 2 path. To upload them into a shareable form, you can then go to dps.report and upload the EVTC file there. After a brief upload, a link will be generated that has all of the information about damage, utility, skill rotations, and combat replays. ArcDPS keeps crashing my game. This most likely means that you have an outdated version of the file. Every new patch introduces some issues, so you'll want to keep an eye out on the last modified tag and make sure that the date is after the most recent patch. If you're still running into more issues, try repairing your client using ArenaNet's instructions on their main website. And there you go. That's all I have for this video. If you would like to support the channel, please consider liking, subscribing, or commenting to tell me what you think. I'm also an ArenaNet partner and I stream quite regularly on Twitch, so if you have any questions that you'd like answered, feel free to swing by and say hi. Thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. I'll see you in the next video.